Recording in progress.
Good morning. Hearing a little bit of feedback. All good? Okay. All right, let's start over. Good morning. My name is Stacy Wood. I'm a public information officer here with Buncombe County Government. Thank you for joining us for the Buncombe County Hurricane Helene response update. Today is Wednesday, October 2nd. Today we are joined by Asheville City Schools, Buncombe County Schools, and AB Tech. Also want to let people know that this briefing is being broadcast in Spanish on 97.3 FM, La Pantera. We know that medical care is top of mind for a number of folks. We've heard from Mercy Urgent Care that the following locations are open for walk-in with no appointment needed. Mercy Urgent Care West Asheville, 1201 Patton Avenue, 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mercy Urgent Care, Weaverville, 61 Weaver Boulevard, 8:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mercy Urgent Care, Brevard, 22 Trust Lane. Mercy Urgent Care, Waynesville, 120 Fraser Street. It is important to note that Mercy Urgent Care is equipped to treat non-life-threatening illness and injuries only. Patients who are experiencing a life-threatening emergency should call 911 or visit their emergency room. I'll now turn it over to County Manager Avril Pender.
Thank you, Stacy. Good morning. Today marks our 6th day of search and rescue, and our teams are continuing to go out and save lives. The devastation in our community is heart-wrenching. As we heard from our search and rescue teams yesterday, we have very skilled and technical rescue professionals working to save everyone we can. But in some areas, this level of destruction could not be survived. Our confirmed loss of life this morning remains at 57 people. Our food and water distribution sites are open at noon today. Our goal is to grow these sites and offer more. Please continue to bring jugs to refill. Yesterday, we had a question about drinking from wells, and I wanted to follow up. No one should consume water from private or shared wellheads was covered with water until the well has been tested for bacteria, fecal chloroform, and inorganic chemicals, including volatile organic compounds or VOCs, pesticides, herbicides, petroleum-based products, and nitrates or nitrites. These wells should be considered contaminated until tested. Don't assume, as Spera comes back on, that all other water wells, non-flooded, are safe either. The recommendation would be to boil any water before consumption, even if the well was not flooded, until tests can be completed. I also want to provide a bit of good news about Kirby, who processes recycling. Though without power, the facility itself remains minimal physical damage, and their fleet of trucks are also untouched. They are working to resume service as soon as possible and have resumed service of curbside recycling collection in the town of Fletcher, as well as several other commercial customers. We continue to see calls from 911 slowly decrease in volume, but non-emergency calls are not decreasing. We have support from 4 call centers around our state to assist with our 911 overflow call volume. With that, I'd like to introduce Dr. Maggie Freeman, Superintendent from Asheville City Schools.
Good morning, everyone. I first want to bring prayers to our community and to all those in the surrounding areas that have been impacted by this horrific event. We know that the road to recovery is going to take a while, and we are still in the inventory phase for a school system, trying to determine which of our resources, what we have, and what we're able to do with what we have. Also want to thank our first responders and leaders in the community for all their tireless and selfless efforts to help with the recovery process and serving our community. Asheville City Schools, our facilities did, from what we can assess so far, have minimal damage, some flooding in certain buildings, but nothing that we won't be able to recover from. All of our facilities are without water. We have about half of our facilities with power. So we are assessing and working with community leaders, county and city, to determine when water will be potentially back available. The lack of water in our school buildings and power in about half of our buildings is a major roadblock to bringing students safely back to school. Another area that we are really focusing on is transportation for our students and how to get students to and from our buildings safely. We know that there have been bridges washed out, still trees out on roads, and that is a major roadblock to bringing our students back safely as well. We have been working diligently as a school system to make sure we have accounted for every single staff member that is part of our Cougar crew. And we are nearly there, but we still do have a large number of staff that we are still trying to make contact with. So please send your prayers. And if you do work for Asheville City Schools and you have not yet made contact with your principal or supervisor, please find a way to do so through a friend or even through calling into 99.9 or Blue Ridge Radio so we can get a message that you are well and safe. I just also want to send our prayers, and our focus is working with principals and building leaders and district leaders to make sure that we can open our schools as soon as possible. So we are dedicated to doing that, even if the situation isn't 100% perfect. We know school is the best place for our children, and we are dedicated to opening our schools and bringing our students back as soon as we possibly can. But again, just want to send our prayers and out to all those impacted in this event, and our much gratitude and thanks for our community leaders and first responders. Their work has been amazing. We are using several Asheville City School facilities to help with the recovery efforts and distribution of foods. And that has just been such a great time to see our community come together and volunteer and help. And we will be sending out more information via social media for any of Asheville City community that wants to come and volunteer. We have several sites that will be looking for additional volunteers. So if you have a need to get up and you're ready to come help, please follow our social media and check on that, and we will give you information on how you can come and help. And then also just want to make sure, if you're listening to this, we do have a cell service station and a charging station at Asheville Middle School and also at the Grant Center for you to get cell service as well as be able to charge your devices. Also, pay attention to all the updates on where to get water and food, and Asheville City Schools is there with you because we know together we can do really hard things, because we are a Cougar crew. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Furman. And now we are joined by Buncombe County School Superintendent, Dr. Rob Jackson.
Good morning. I'm Rob Jackson, honored to serve as the superintendent of Buncombe County School System. Our community has suffered from an incredible tragedy. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with someone and we were talking about our students. During the pandemic, we began to use a word, unprecedented, that we had hoped and prayed that we would never use again when we think about our students' personal lives and their academic lives. And yet we are in unprecedented times yet again. But we discover in unprecedented times strength that's been there throughout, that we may not always have to draw upon, but we've seen that drawn upon over the course of the last 6, almost 7 days, as we think to prior to the storm and all the work that went on to prepare for what has happened here in our county. On behalf of our 22,000 plus students and our over 3,000 staff members, I want to say thank you. Thank you to our emergency services personnel. Thank you to our first responders. Thank you to law enforcement. Thank you to our county staff who've worked tirelessly around the clock to make sure that we're safe, to do all that they could within their power to take care of us, our community, our neighborhood. I want to say thank you to those who responded from across the state and around the country, who've come in to offer their service to take care of our friends and our families and our neighbors. We're so very grateful and so very appreciative of all of those who in this time of challenge have said, here I am, what can I do to help? I'd like to say thank you to our teammates, our transportation team, who, as the storm was arriving, were driving our school buses to help evacuate our friends and neighbors to safe shelters, who were back out immediately after the storm, again, driving those buses to evacuate our friends and neighbors to the shelters that were set up. Our transportation team has continued to work around the clock, providing the fueling logistics for our emergency response vehicles, for our law enforcement vehicles throughout the community, for our fire departments, making sure that our school system is a partner and a resource for our community. Because truly, that's what public schools are in all things, but especially now. I want to say thank you to our child nutrition teams as they've come into our schools to open up our freezers and our coolers and our dry goods, to provide those to folks at the shelters, and then to provide them to our community as well. We see the great need and have reached out, and I'm so thankful for our employees who've showed up to say, here I am, what can I do? I'm so grateful for our facilities and maintenance teams who have cut paths into each of our 45 schools to make sure that they're accessible so that we could assess the damage to our facilities. And we're very grateful that, like our sister school system, the Asheville City Schools, that we've suffered minimal damage in our buildings. We have work to do, but they'll be ready to open. You see, but cutting those pathways into our schools has been very important in this moment, because most of our schools are being used right now. Some are being used as sleep sites for law enforcement, for ambulance drivers, for power crews.